Teacher Talk. Talk about Teacher Talk. Oh, it's Teacher Talk. Oh, talk about Teacher Talk. Well, education and dedication with collaboration brings about inspiration with Teacher Talk. Hey, with Teacher Talk.
Welcome to the Teacher Talk Show with Dr. Lisa Mozer. This show is about challenges in the classroom, education, and policy. Express your concerns. Call into the show at 704-873-1400. It is not necessary to identify any school district or give names. These conversations are informative and sincere. Now for your host, Dr. Lisa Mozer.
And thank you, Nikia. Thank you for that great intro. I'm Lisa Mozer, sharing with you what teachers talk about. Right now, everybody wants to know, what is the school year this fall going to look like? I mean, really, it's only a few weeks away for some of us. Typically across the country, school starts in August in some places, other places not until September. But, you know, that's only weeks away. And we're seeing some information about, you know, students may have to wear masks. And I just want to, you know, think about that for a moment. Students wearing masks. I always had trouble just getting a student to bring a pencil, a laptop, and their textbook to the classroom. So I'm sure that teachers want to know who is going to make the students keep their mask and keep it on. I'm having visions of these masks all on the floor, on the desk, in the hallway, and not everybody having them on. It's not going to be far off. I know the last thing I saw from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, they advised that schools refrain from reopening until they were able to screen students and staff for COVID-19. Now, I'm really serious here. I have not heard anything about students being tested for the fall. Now, if you have, you know, please inform me, call me up. But I'm just saying, I have not heard anything about students being tested, and school is just a few weeks away. We have a guest. Let me tell you that I could not find a more perfect guest. This is my first show of Teacher Talk on WSIC, and I'm very excited to introduce to you my first guest. He is the former Deputy General Counsel of the United States Department of Education, a former federal prosecutor, and civil rights attorney with the United States Department of Justice, Johnathan Vogel. Johnathan, are you there?
I am, Dr. Mozer. Thank you so much for having me on. And congratulations on the inaugural show.
Thank you. I'm so happy to speak with you. Our theme and reason for having you on is that sometimes teachers, we need good counsel. Before we get into your practice, tell us about you, Johnathan, where you went to school, where you're from. You're located, your current practice is in Charlotte, correct?
Correct. My practice is in Charlotte, North Carolina. I went to law school in Atlanta at Emory University School of Law. Began practicing law as a litigator with a law firm in Atlanta after I graduated, but made a move to Washington, D.C. because I wanted to work for government. I wanted to do some kind of public service in my law career. That's something I felt strongly about. And I had a few terrific positions and opportunities in Washington. My first stop was on Capitol Hill in the House of Representatives, where I worked as an attorney with the Judiciary Committee. And from there, I worked at the Justice Department and the Civil Rights Division, and then I had a kind of a career-changing opportunity to be the Deputy General Counsel at the United States Department of Education, where along with two other lawyers, I was the second highest ranking lawyer in a cabinet-level department. My responsibilities were to provide advice to the higher education policy officials, including, or going all the way up to the secretary, and deputy secretary.
And
I also had responsibility over some of the legal requirements pertaining to all regulatory services, all rulemaking and regulations issued by the department, and so that included a lot of K through 12 matters as well.
and tell us how you transitioned into education law, and you deal with a lot of legalities for teachers. Is that correct?
Yeah, I sure do. It was, after working on education law in Washington, I developed a real interest. I moved to North Carolina, where I had family, and went back to the Justice Department as a prosecutor, private practice, and decided to launch my own education law firm called Vogel Law Firm, where I practice solely education law.
Johnathan, education law. Tell us, in a nutshell, what is education law?
Yeah, education law might mean different things to different people, but generally it's an area of law that is distinctive. So even though at a school district there are employment issues that would be similar to employment issues that might occur at another workplace, there are certain issues that are unique, like the issues of complying with a school board's policy, like issues relating to faculty or student discipline and the rights that somebody has in that process.
Typically on the 6 o'clock news, when we see a teacher that's in trouble, and I want to make sure that anyone listening has to understand that typically teachers are good. We are highly vetted. We have to have a college degree. We have to have a background check. We are background investigated. We're fingerprinted. We have to take a state exam. So teachers are not just walking off the street, I think I'll teach today. And when we see a teacher that is in trouble and has committed a crime, it's typically something that is criminal and they need to be prosecuted. But that's not an everyday occurrence. It's certainly not how a good teacher may make a misstep and need your counsel. Can you tell us, when is it that a good teacher would seek out your help?
Yeah, often it occurs in a gray area, right? There are some acts that you mentioned that are rare that really cross over into an act that deserves termination and may even be criminal if we're talking about some kind of assault against a student or something like that. And that happens. It's rare, but it happens.
And that's what we kind of see on the 6 o'clock news across the country occasionally. But that's, those are not the good teachers that we see every day taking care of our education system, the learning process, because most teachers are really superheroes.
They are, and they're in very difficult and challenging environments. Some teachers in particular are teaching in very challenging environments, and they're doing the best that they can. And sometimes, someone might report something that a teacher said or did, and it's a little iffy whether that really happened or that really was said. And who are the witnesses? The witnesses are students. Well, how old are these students? And are they being interviewed properly about what a teacher said or did? There are a lot of areas in there. There are a lot of issues, I should say, that are very challenging, and that's when a teacher might want to consider retaining legal counsel to help the teacher get through the process. And it is a process with the school's procedures, the school district's procedures, and there are legal rights that flow from North Carolina through North Carolina statutes, the North Carolina Constitution, and even the United States Constitution.
We have a teacher that we're going to be bringing on and talking to a little bit later and hear their experience. But before we get to that, that'll be after the break, how can we protect ourselves better as teachers in a classroom? We're in a challenging situation. Should we be documenting things? Should we be going to conferences to learn about legalities? How can we better prepare ourselves so that we don't misstep and have a legal issue?
Well, the best thing that a teacher can do is to attend training, to pay attention during training, and to implement what the teacher learns during training so that they understand what the rules of the game are. And for example, in North Carolina, there's a statute regarding physical restraint of students, and then many school boards will adopt that physical restraint language in the statute as part of the school board policy. Well, it's important for a teacher to know what is and what is not permitted when it comes to physical restraint. So, for example, if a student is going to hurt him or herself or hurt other students, that would be an exception that is proper to physically restrain the student so that the student does not hurt him or herself or other students. And there are other exceptions, but it's important for a teacher to know what the teacher can and cannot do. So training, listening, training, but beyond that, there are things that happen in a classroom, and maybe the only witnesses are the students themselves, and so there's only so much time a teacher would have to document and do these various things, and so there's only so much a teacher can do, and they're asked to do so much already. But knowing ahead of time what they can and cannot do and what is proper and what is not proper will go a very long way.
And I'll use myself as an example because I'm a middle school science teacher. And one of the things that certainly concerned me and other teachers that are in similar situations when it comes to science, we have so many substances and articles and gadgets that are laying out, and yet we have to run out of the classroom, be in the hallway. And if something is taken or if something is used improperly, did I brief the student on, not taking advantage of that instrument being laid out? And if they do, have you noticed any teachers that are science teachers having problems like that?
Oh, sure. In a science class, a chemistry class, there are a lot of things, a Bunsen burner. I mean, there are a lot of, opportunities for mischief. And so it takes extra effort to make sure that the teacher understands the safety guidelines, that the teacher has explained it to the students, that the parents are aware of what's going on in the classroom as well, so no one is surprised to hear that, there are Bunsen burners, for example. There's fire in the classroom for chemistry purposes.
And if a teacher does come to you for counsel, are we going to be able to hold on to our position, or will we be able to go to another school if there's a problem? How do you handle that as counselor?
Well, it is sometimes subject to negotiation, but first and foremost, what a teacher wants to do is try to work this out. As an education lawyer, I am not looking to create a battle and a war. I want to help the teacher get to where the teacher needs to be. If the issue needs to be resolved, and if it gets put on in the personnel file, but the teacher is not terminated, that might be enough. In some cases, that might not be enough. We might need to contest it. We might need to request that it be removed from the personnel file. The idea is to help them get to where they need to be. And
let's say that a teacher didn't come to you, had a problem, lost their license. Is there any hope for that teacher to be able to regain that license?
Yeah, there's a process, and I do counsel teachers on that. There's a process through the State Board of Education to eventually, regain that license. But yeah, these are all issues that have come up, and I have represented teachers and administrators in the State Board of Education proceedings.
Well, Johnathan, before we go to the break, really quickly, let me ask you, is there a common, more frequent offense that teachers need to be on the lookout for?
I think that today school districts are looking at physical restraints or assaults very carefully. I think that they're also looking at potential issues of sexual assault very closely, and as well as issues relating to race relations. There certainly there's more concern and a greater interest and a much greater sensitivity than ever before. That's not necessarily a bad thing, of course, but it's something that teachers need to be aware of.
And how can teachers get in contact with you if they're listening and they think that they need consultation?
Yeah, you can visit my website. It's Vogel, PLLC.com. That's spelled VOGEL, PLLC.com. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and you can reach out to me at 704-552-3750. That's 704-552-3750.
Okay, Jonathan, don't go anywhere. We're going to go to the break. We also have a teacher that is going to share a very sensitive situation, their experience, when we come back. This is Teacher Talk.
Chief Meteorologist Tara Lane.
I'm Lisa Mozer. You're listening to Teacher Talk. Our topic today is when good teachers need counsel. When you call into the show, let me just say that you do have confidentiality. That means you do not have to identify yourself, your location, any ID. My next guest on the phone, he has experienced a very sensitive, a very difficult situation, but I think that as peer support, we need to share information, share experiences, be informed. And that's why we have asked him to join us today and to share his story. Are you there, caller?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, and welcome to Teacher Talk.
Thank you.
I mentioned earlier that teachers are highly vetted. We have a degree, we take a state test. We're not just walking in off the street and I decided to teach today. Tell us a little about your background and how you became a teacher, and then I'd like for you to get into why we're here today to discuss the situation and your very difficult experience. Can you do that?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. Yes, I, even, as a middle schooler and a high school student, I always had a passion for, helping other people around me. And so I just carried that on once I entered into college. And, I kind of was going back and forth, do I want to do the little ones or do I want to do, like, the bigger kids? But once I started to go out and do, different internships, I just found a love for, the elementary kids.
Can you tell us where you went to school? Do you have an education degree?
Yes, I went to North Carolina A&T State University in Greensboro, North Carolina.
And you have an education degree, and then would you mind telling us where you're from?
I'm from Greensboro, North Carolina, and yes, I have a degree in elementary education.
Oh, that's wonderful. And of course, you take a state test, you get a state license to teach, correct?
Yes.
So once you were out of your pedagogy courses and going into the classroom, was this your first classroom?
Oh, no, I just finished my 8th year of teaching at the end of this school year.
Okay, so you're a veteran teacher. Anybody
Yes.
surviving after 2 years is a veteran teacher. Okay.
Oh, yes.
That's wonderful. So tell us, what happened?
Well, there was an allegation made in which I was accused of actually assaulting a student. And, it had to go through the whole process of, HR investigating it. And what I quickly found out is that, I was basically in it alone. It's much easier for, administrators, HR, superintendents, and school boards to just, go against a teacher just to, kind of please the parents or please,
Were you
other
able?
people that may.
Were you able to prove yourself as innocent and, redeem yourself?
Yes, I was able to do that. What I had to do, I had to just kind of take a deep breath, and I had to go out and hire an attorney to, help handle things because it just got to the point where I couldn't fight it alone. And we were able to get some proof, documents that were able to, prove my innocence.
Oh, well, that's a good thing, right?
It was a good thing, but what they did, they were just so focused on trying to find a way to get me out of the system. And so it became just a nasty, nasty fight. And what they did, what these school systems will do, they will, like, whenever they discipline you, they give you what they call a letter of reprimand, and they go in, like, your personnel files. And those letter of reprimands are very, very, very hard to fight.
So are you teaching currently?
Well, currently, right now, I'm actually just taking a deep breath. I'm actually looking for, another job teaching. Been looking at some, other options as well.
Okay, but tell me, ideally, what would you like to be doing right now?
I would love to still be teaching. That would be...
Any particular school?
I know, well, the schools I always, have worked at are like schools that have, like high minority populations, a lot of high poverty, because I feel like that's where I'm needed the most at.
Okay. What I would like for you to do is, and I don't have all of the information up just yet. This is my first show for Teacher Talk. But what I would like for you to do is log on to lisamozer.com. That's LISAMOZER.com. We are going to have peer support, small group peer support meetings once a week for about 7 weeks on different topics. I think you'll be a wonderful peer leader to share your story and find some resolutions together. Would you be interested in doing that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, because we know that when we have such a high obstacle in front of us, it's hard to recover from a setback by ourselves. And so sharing is something that our small groups will do. Teachers as peers getting together, I'm sure we're going to find that we have more things in common than we have that are different. So anyone that's listening, if you think that you can help our caller, I want you to also log into, again, that's lisamozer.com. If you go on my website, you'll also see where it says Zoom meetings or Zoom registration. That's for our small groups for Teacher Talk. We're going to be talking more about the challenges that we have in the classroom. We want everybody to join in, especially our teachers. Teachers are superheroes. Until next week, we'll be talking.